You're listening to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will introduce you to a wealth of interesting, fascinating individuals from all walks of life who will share their stories, how they've overcome challenges, and you will find out their top tips for success. Through this podcast, you can gain tips to grow and change your life and the way you see the world, and help you to nurture your zest. Good evening and welcome to Nurture Your Zest. Tonight I'm delighted to be joined by Melanie Lomax, who is a champion of women and women in entrepreneurship and women in business. And so we're going to hear all about the rookie mistakes that entrepreneurs face and how she helps coach them to get over that and helps them to have a better business. So I'm Ashleigh King. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm delighted to bring Melanie into the conversation now.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you?
I'm really, really good. Thank you. And thank you for having me tonight. It's such a privilege and a pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. I'm so delighted you were free, and I'm loving the beautiful flowers in the background.
I'm going to let you into a secret. They're false. They're false. I don't do well with live plants. So anything that I have is artificial.
I share that trait. I think it's because we're always busy, Melanie. We're just using our gifts elsewhere that,
I like that, Ashleigh. Using our gifts elsewhere. I'm coining that.
So what has your day been like today? What have you been up to?
Do you know, it's been a really busy, productive day. And I know we were just sort of chatting before we went live. I know you've had a really productive day. But over the last few weeks and since lockdown, there's been so much happening in terms of obviously face-to-face stuff had to be cancelled. Of course, that's fine. But I decided to, and this is how we met, through networking online and LinkedIn, and asking people to come and join my Women Empower group, Empower Her Collective, which is a free group for women to join who need some inspiration, some motivation. They've all been through challenges in life, and it's a place where we can educate them and support them. And obviously your good self has been in there doing, this will be your second podcast talking about podcasts this week and one next week. Bit of a plug there for you for anyone to come and join and watch the gorgeous Ashleigh. But alongside that, what I have been doing is there's been lots and lots of women who have been reaching out saying, Mel, how do you do what you do online? I'd really love to do that, but I just don't have the confidence to do it. And I totally get that, and I feel their pain, because turning something into an online entrepreneurial business, it takes guts, it takes courage, and it takes confidence, and you need to have really specific foundations before you even think about getting to that marketing phase, which in itself is a beast. So you need to have that sorted. So I've had a really productive day, literally mapping out everything in terms of the course, which is going to support rookie female entrepreneurs to get them kick-started. So I'm really, really excited that all the plans are coming together. So yeah, my day has been filled with design, speaking to people, mentoring people, and obviously being on your fabulous podcast.
Well, I'm delighted to have you here, and I'm so glad you've had a really great day and it's been so productive. And I am always just inspired and I can't believe people who can do processes and who can do process mapping and planning, because that is just not my gift. So
it's not mine, but it's something that has to be done. If you want it to work, there's got to be a strategy, and it's got to be planned, prepared. And that's what I tell every woman that I work with or coach. It's planning and preparation is everything.
Well, actually, we say things like it's not our gift, but we can do it, right? And that's something that we have to catch ourselves saying. And I think a lot of people do that. Unless you're perfect at it, you think, well, it's not my area. Do you think
there's no such word as perfect, because it's a myth? because it's something that we believe that just is not true. And when we believe something is perfect, our inner voice pecks away at us and chips away and says that we're not good enough. So for me, it's progression over perfection in any given point, because sometimes our reality is here, but the expectations are way up here, and it's unachievable.
It's so true. And I like something I read today, which is perfection is the thief or the enemy of action. And I
Ooh,
love that one. Yeah,
love it. That's great.
exactly.
All sorts of great little quotes out there which make you think. I love stuff like that.
Me too. I love quotes, but I also just love to learn. So, like
Mm.
you saying, you've been doing that process mapping. I'm also creating a course at the moment, how to podcast, right from the bottom for beginners. And that's great and it's so much fun, but it's like a huge beast as you're thinking, how much when where do you pitch it? How much do you price it for? Do you have it as a smaller thing or a bigger thing?
There's so much to take into consideration, and this is the stuff that causes us female entrepreneurs some real challenges, and it creates huge overwhelm to the point where we get to procrastinating. And then we have the ability to jump from one thing to another, so we might start something but not necessarily finish it, and that's where the danger lies. So by doing everything that I've got planned out for this particular kickoff course will help you to formulate that process, to think about it clearly, because sometimes there's money mindset issues that get stuck in there, and it's like, well, how much do I charge for a course? And some people might say, well, I'm going to charge X amount of $1,000 for mine. And some might say, well, I'm going to throw it out at £15 or whatever. And there's like totally different ranges. And what I would always say is with that is do your research, find out what other people in your industry are doing and charging. But also remember, if you're providing a service, people are paying for your time, your experience, your knowledge, your skills, your capabilities, and that has huge value. If you are impacting somebody's life, then the money is just an energy. It's an exchange of that service. So it's about building the confidence to be able to find your self-worth and charge, appropriately what you're worth, and as well as the content that you're giving.
Absolutely, that's some great tips. And so I know you're going to be creating this rookie entrepreneur course, and that sounds
Yes.
fab. But I would also like to know, so you've been coaching for 22 years, is that right?
Yes, I know. And I think, do you know what it is? I fell into it, but I think it was a universal gift of me falling into it. So I remember, and I always say, go back to your childhood. I often do this with clients. Go right back to your childhood and remember how you were so for us, a young girl. And I remember playing in my room with my dolls and my teddies, and I would have a chalkboard, the old chalkboards, and I literally thought I was a teacher. And I would pick topics and I'd have them all lined up on the bed, and I'd be standing there teaching them and, interacting with them as if they were actually students. And I spent hours doing that. I was an only child up until the age of 13, 14. So I had to get creative. But I was always doing stuff and getting creative and making things. And that's where my energy really sort of was focused. I was a child that couldn't keep still. I had to have focus. I had to be doing something. And I'm very much a hands-on person. And when I go through that and I bring that forward into my career, a training opportunity came up, and I'd always thought I'd seen them in action, like going through the corporate world. I was thinking, I would love to do that. And the opportunity came up and I applied for it and I got it. And I've never looked back, because there was so much investment in me in terms of how do you train people? How do you design courses? How do you assess learning needs? How do you give feedback? How do you coach? So it was all of this stuff. And my passion has always been to help people get from A to B in quite a methodical way, but with lots of support. That is really my ethic, because I think if someone's going to pay for a service and you're saying you're going to coach them, and I think we have to be careful on that term as well, but if you're going to coach them, you absolutely need to show up for that person or that small group that you are working for. Because if you're not, then I'm sorry, you're not a coach. And there's a clear difference. You know, you can sign up for self-teach courses, and they're great. But if you're a person who does procrastinate, doesn't follow things through, they're not going to be the right thing for you. And I know I've tried them. I need to be held accountable. And I think I am great at is holding people accountable to move through and support them through some of those challenges that they face. And you know, that's early on, in mid, and also later stages. There's always going to be challenges that are thrown up, and things are going to come up for you all the time. So it's always about mindset too. It's massively important.
Absolutely, I so agree. Mindset's super important. Oh gosh, I've got so many questions from what you've just said there. First of all, I want to hold up quickly. I mean, it's a bit messy, but you were talking about a chalkboard, and I've got one in my office here about nurture your zest. But the other thing I was going to say is that reminded me of something. So as a child, I also wanted to be a teacher, and this is quite an embarrassing story.
Go for it. I love it.
Well, my younger sister she was only 2, maybe not even 2, but I would put all the dolls and then my younger sister there, and I'd come home from school and teach her the alphabet and teach her how to count. And if she couldn't say the alphabet, I used to smack her with a ruler really hard. I don't know. I obviously was quite mean.
You know, we'd certainly do. You imagine if you went to school and
Oh.
with the whip, you'd be put away.
Exactly. I know times have changed, but gosh, I look back on that and I'm so embarrassed. But you know what? She is the best at languages. She speaks like 6 or 7 languages, maybe more.
That is
You know, so
you programmed her at such an early age, because they do say up until about the age of 7, you are formulating all your beliefs for how that's going to serve you in adulthood. So you've definitely
I put the fear in her that if she doesn't learn language, she's going to feel pain. It is really embarrassing, but we all have things to be embarrassed of. So
I love it. What made you thankful for it now?
And the thing is, as well, is we did speak about this the other day in your group, with the Empower group, that actually for me, chatting has been the answer all the time, but I only discovered it a year ago, which is insane.
But again, you're a creative, so if you think about, it's very similar stories, but we both have that creative outlook, and but also with great intention. You know, so it's my intention is to, you know, really empower women, to help them step into their power and flourish, and you know, be their own boss and take that opportunity, but know how to do it safely. You know, and with yourself, you know, it's all about this creating of stories and the interest and the curiosity and intrigue about what's going on in other people's lives and their stories as well, because that's what we love, you know. And I think that there's an element in both of our work that does have to have that element of storytelling, specifically in what you do, but also for me to be able for people to understand my journey, how I can support them. But also when I'm trading them things, it's about bringing it to life and using analogies to make things easier for it to really stick in the
But
mind.
also thinking about the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we tell ourselves about other people and the way they've treated us and our whole way of seeing the world, you know. I've always been fascinated by that. Say if friendships break up or something happens, you know, one person has one side and another, and it's just I think stories are so powerful for sure. There's actually a book I've gotten. You can't see it, it's on my bookshelf, but I've got so many MBA books at the moment. But there's one all about stories, and it's about the stories we tell ourselves, especially in, you know, huge, large-scale change management programs, when you're, you know, working in an organization and they're making stuff redundant or you know, it can be really complex the way we respond emotionally to things.
Massively, yeah. And you know, throughout my work, because I know you said obviously I've been coaching for 23 years, but that coaching and that training has come in many different formats. And obviously I was very much part of corporate work, the corporate world, from about the age of 19 right through until I went freelance about 5 years ago. And as my career progressed and my expansion of knowledge and learning as well, I was part of huge transformational changes within corporate, culture change, you know, and, you know, that I've seen the whole, you know, people having to be made redundant and understanding that, you know, even to a certain point having to give that horrific news to somebody, you know, and you are always dealing with emotion. And one thing I always said was, because even when I started freelancing, when you go and work with a company, I will only ever work with the top. And the reason for that is because they have the strategy, but they don't understand the people. And we're all human, and we all need to be understood as human, and we need to engage as human and really nurture. And I love your title, Nurture Your Zest, because that's absolutely what businesses need to do, is nurture the zest in each individual who works for that company, regardless of what level that they're at. And that's how you gain, you know, leeway in bringing your people with you. And leaders that create that following is because they have really tapped in to their people skills. And, you know, people say to me, well, can you teach someone to be a leader? Yes, absolutely. But it always starts by tapping into their self-awareness and their emotional intelligence first. And once they understand who they are and why they think and feel in the way they do, they then understand that their perception of the world has probably been quite skewed for some time, and that there are other ways to see, you know, why somebody might be showing up in a certain way. Because we do, as humans, we make judgments, and our little voice goes on at us incessantly, making judgments about everyone. I mean, people who are watching this are doing that about you and I now, you know, and that little voice will go like the clappers, but it's also much very linked into that subconscious of, well, I'm going to tell you a story, but it might not be the right story because it's got elements missing, but I'm going to do it because I really want to hold you back and I want to keep you safe. And that can be quite damaging. So it's about learning how to understand that and how to rewire that. And that's what normally happens when you're going through a culture change program. You have to do the mindset work with leaders first, so that they understand then how they can bring the best out in others. Because sometimes once they've made that decision, they're like, well, I'm not going to bother with X person because, you know, they look like they can't be bothered. Well, what does look like they can't be bothered look like, you know? So it's about having communication. And as you said, it's genuine curiosity. And that's what helps people come along. When you're genuinely interested and you can acknowledge them, you know exactly where you can take them from A to B. And that's why coaching is so important, because a coach doesn't have the answers. They can help you draw the answers that lie within, because you do have enough within you. Training is what shows you how. And then mentoring is what can give you the experience or the guidance based on experience. So I know, I see, I get so passionate, I just go off on one. I'm sorry, Ashleigh.
Don't apologize. It's wonderful. It's so nice to hear. And I'm really enjoying what you're saying there. So it sounds like you've had a very broad experience across, you know, really corporate level, but also other things. You've been involved in entrepreneurial, you know, design elements, and right from very different levels. And so I'm curious as well, because coaching can be seen as a bit of a negative word in some ways, it also can be seen that there's so many people in the coaching space. And I think there were always a lot of people in the coaching space, but it's now that with digital communication, we can just put it out there more, you know.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, I'm very straight-laced talking, so I'm going to give you my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
So I have been following numerous coaches for very different reasons, because I do admire people who can get up and make things happen. I have a great admiration for them. However, you're quite right. In the digital age and in the online world, the word coach is sometimes overused. And I suppose there's a little bit of an argument that says, how can somebody be a coach if they don't have a qualification? And let me tell you this, I know many coaches, personal, across the network and industry, who have qualifications coming in all sorts of letters after the name. But if you watch them in action, they are absolutely not a coach. They know the theory, but they don't know the how. Whereas I never took a qualification, if you like, but I was massively invested in through financial services industry to be expert at what I do, and had to go through assessments and things like that. And that was part of my journey. So in terms of experience, I can sit there and coach till the cows come home, and I know I can get the answers out to people, and I know within an hour of sitting with me, they're going away feeling completely different, and they have actions, and they're really crystal clear on what they need to do. So that's why I was saying there's many people out there saying, oh, I'm a health coach, or I'm a wellness coach, or I'm a business coach, I'm a this coach. That's okay, but what I would say is I totally love the entrepreneurial world, and I think it has its place for everybody. But coach is just a title that's being thrown around, and actually some of these people aren't coaches. What they have is an ability or a skill or an experience that they can share that will impact others in some way. It's not necessarily coaching in its true form.
Exactly. Sometimes it can be more of a training, or it could be more of a, yeah, I think train is a good word, but especially if it's technical things, it's not necessarily coaching. The way I see coaching is it's very much around things like one of my favorite coaching models, which is the grow model. I don't know if
if anybody doesn't know what grow is, because I'm sure there'll be people thinking, what are these two rattling on about? It's just a brilliant, clear tool, and it's used in a lot of corporate places as well. And it literally is, it's 4 stages of coaching. So what is their goal? G, as in the grow. The R is reality. So what is the present? What is their reality right now? And the reason why that's so important to nail is because if you don't acknowledge reality and accept it, your chances of moving forward are very slim, because what you'll end up doing is slipping back to what I like to call a victim zone, which is the wait and hope, the excuses, the blame, I didn't know. So it's very, very important that reality is really solid in terms of, do you know what it is, and really are you willing to take action? The O is options. And that is all about what solutions can you find to put into place to make stuff happen. That's it in its simplest form. And the W, people will call it way forward. And that is, but for me, there's an extra bit that comes into that when coaching. So looking at the way forward, it's about having that clear action plan. But for me, I always go back to that and say, so what challenges could that throw up for you? What could stop you? Let's analyze that, because you need to have a plan and a plan B, if you like, if something doesn't work. So grow is a really, really effective tool, and so simple to use, and you can do it on your own. You could go online and download grow templates, and there'll be lists and lists of questions, because there's loads of support out there, and you could literally self-coach yourself with a grow model.
I like that. I like a mix of grow and something else called Gibbs reflective cycle, I think, which helps you think about what happened and then why, and then how do you feel about it, and then you go back to it, and then you leave it a few days, and then you go back to it again. and
Yeah.
it just helps you to really ruminate on things. I think self-awareness is super important, and um, a lot of us who struggle with change or struggle with anything, the stories we tell ourselves, it's that self-awareness. And actually, on that note, I've always been a big fan of transformational leadership. I had two managers in my life who honestly changed my world. They were so good, and a
And
lot of that was.
I'll ask you a question then. So, for what reason did they change your world?
Well, one of them, I actually met at a training course years ago, and they were in a very senior role, and I was in a very junior role. And it was a situation where I was the only person self-funding in the whole group, in the whole cohort of around 20, I think, maybe 30 people. And everyone else was like senior management and getting their course paid for them. But I just wanted to make that investment in myself. And so this person was just a super champion for me throughout my career, and still is now. And I really, really respect them. And it's similar for a very similar manager where um, it was very much about self-awareness. So with both of them, actually, they had this kind of open door policy where they would say, you know what, if you've got any feedback and you're too embarrassed to say it to me, just leave it on my desk. Leave an
But
anonymous note on my.
yeah, and do you know what? That's a really big thing, because feedback is massively important to people's learning and development. Um, and that's one thing that I, through this Rookie Entrepreneur Academy, that's what we're going to do. Because one thing I noticed, and have done for a while, because I've been on an online learning journey for quite some time, and I've paid massive amounts of money for mentorships, to be part of mentorship programs, and I pay them monthly. And it's because I respect people for the different things that they do and that they can teach me, because that's what I need. But one thing I notice is consistently is that it's all around, okay, we can work with your ideal client, which is great. We can show you how to niche, which is great, and we can show you the marketing, which is great. However, the big thing is, and comments that I see on threads, is people are lacking the confidence. They're lacking the confidence because they haven't had that invested in them. How do I create engaging content? How do I know how to formulate that? If I'm going to build a course, how do I know it's going to give the results that it needs? If I'm going to go live, I mean, the thought, for some women, and I've seen them, several months into their journey, who've not been live within their groups. And in the digital age, visibility is massive. It's huge. And that's one of the key things that is massively part of these building blocks for the Rookie Fempreneur Academy, because we work with a small number of women. So they have loads of one-to-one support, but they also have the opportunity to practice and have feedback. So that is boosting their confidence. And as a team, we work together to support each other as well and give constructive feedback. But it's helping them to think bigger picture, to build step by step, and to eventually where they graduate and they say, actually, I can go in my own group now and I can smash it, and I know what my launch is going to be, and I know how to create the content, and I've grown my group, because my Empower Her Collective, I grew when I opened that last September. That grew to 1,100 people in 4 weeks.
Wow.
Organically. And part of the training that I will be doing is knowing what it takes to really get your ideal client to want to be part of that group, because that's massively important. But obviously there's a lot of work to do before you get to that stage, and it all is in here as well.
That's really powerful. I love that. And I love what you're doing with fantastic women. And I'm interested. So you've got all these amazing women that you work with, and you've already mentioned some of the mindset blocks and some of the visibility blocks. What do you think that comes from? You know, so you've said it's a lack of confidence, but how, what, is this something that's exclusive to women, or is this something, you know, have you noticed any trends, or do you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's exclusive to women, because what you have to remember is we are all human and we all have the inner critic that can sit on our shoulders. What it has to do with, and from having conversations with women and understanding why those blocks are there, is because there's a lack of self-worth, and there's a lot of what I call comparisonitis. So they look at others and they say, wow, they're great at what they do. I'd love to be able to do that, but I couldn't. And I couldn't because I don't think, you know, I'd be worried about what people will think of me. Because especially when you're first starting off and working across social media, you've got to think about what would you normally post? You know, when people will post memes and funny things, they might post inspirational stuff, and then all of a sudden you think, oh, I need to start this, you know, digital journey now, and I need to be visible. So people who were, you know, who were friends with me or past colleagues, they're starting to think, well, if I start to talk about this, because this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I want to show people and help them with, what are they going to think of me? And it's all to do, as you say, the stories that we tell ourselves. And that is ego talking. It's pure ego. And that takes time to break down. It takes the mindset work, and it also takes being out there, getting the feedback. And also, when they start to get the real, the likes, the comments, the follows, this is great, I love being part of this group, they then start to, it boosts the confidence. You're not going to be confident straight away. It's bite-sized chunks. That's how we learn. Bite-sized chunks. And if anybody thinks that they can start an online entrepreneurship overnight and be a millionaire, then you are absolutely out of your mind, because the amount of, seriously, the amount of work that it takes for you to kickstart that business, you have to be mentally prepared. You have to be planned and prepared. And yeah, as we said earlier on, I you know, I'd rather give planning to somebody else to do, because I like to do the nice things. But it has to be done. It just has to be done.
It's so true, and it really matters, because when you have a strong plan, you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, and it's so much easier because, I mean, you can't please everyone. You don't want everyone to like you. You want your target audience to come to you, you know. So when you have a plan and you know who you wanting to reach, it's so much easier because you know how you're going to speak, you know what kind of words you're going to use, what language, you know where they hang out. So it doesn't matter about anyone else.
I mean, for example, because I brought this in knowing that what we were going to be talking about tonight, and it's just for anybody thinking about, well, who is my ideal client? It isn't about just saying, so for example, I'm going to work with women who are between the age of 40 and 50, and we're going
They're a
to,
Scouser.
yeah, and do you know, you literally have to get into the head of your ideal client. And like, I wrote some notes down about, you know, who's my ideal client when it comes to kickstarting and you know, their online entrepreneurial journey, and things that, you know, when I was thinking about it, and this isn't in depth, this is just to give you an example, but my ideal client will be sitting there thinking, I'd really like to be helping others do XYZ, right? They'll be thinking, I'd love to do it, but I don't know where to start. I haven't a clue. Yeah, it's a little bit overwhelming. They may also be thinking about, well, what are people going to think about me? Are they going to, will anybody think I'm credible? You know, what have I got that people would really, you know, buy from me? You know, they'll be thinking about, but I haven't really got the money to set up a business. That is classic. And right at the beginning, you don't need money to invest in that business. When you nail your group and your organic growth, and money starts to come in off your service that you provide, that is then when you can take it to the next level and think about all the good stuff you can get from like Facebook advertising, things like that. But there's no point in thinking that far ahead, because you've got to build your path first. And this is the important stuff. This is the bit that's missing. You know, you'll normally find that for my niche, they follow a lot of people. So they'll probably do things that I've done, follow people for ages, but then think there's always either that scarcity mindset or the confidence issue or the credibility issue that stops them in their tracks dead. And until we get through that mindset piece, they're not going to take the step forward that they need. So they're just some highlights of what my ideal client might be thinking. And then obviously when I do messaging, I will talk in that language, saying, you know, I know what it's like to be a female entrepreneur, thinking about where do I start and what are people going to think of me. Because when I message it like that, when someone's reading it, they go, oh my God, that is me, you know? And that's the point of using social media to its advantage. What I can't stand is spam. And I love network marketing. I've done network marketing on a couple of occasions. But when I get friend requests and someone jumps into my inbox within 3 seconds flat, asking me if, you know, I'd like to try a product or see a catalogue, they don't even get a response, because I just think it's not the right way to do business. Yeah, you know, the products and stuff are amazing, but get to know me, build a relationship. And as you say, you've got to nurture things, and that's how business grows. And they need to know who you are, and they need to buy into you. And that takes time.
That's so true. And I'm such a big fan of that. I always say, you know, let people come to you, they will come to you in their own time. But yeah, rather than, I also hate that. I don't mind connecting with new people. I think that's great. But I hate when people slide into your messages and say, hey, here's my free download, when you don't know each other.
No. You know, at first I did start, you know, feeding back to people who were doing that, and I was just taking up far too much of my time, and I thought, no, you know, you'll learn the hard way.
How did they respond out of interest?
In terms of the ones that I gave feedback to, I didn't get a response. Pretty much, it was a bit like, okay, it's all gone blank. But I suppose, you see, this is just the whole learning and development side. Anything I do say is said with great intent, and it comes from a place of love. And I do believe that people need to be able to learn. And actually, if something isn't, you can't, it's a bit like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. So that's why it's important to get to know people, you know, and find out if they're interested in things, you know, if there's any common ground. And then think about taking the relationship to the next step. Because it is like jumping out at someone saying, would you like to marry me? You know?
No. Yeah, it's so true. I find it that I've wondered sometimes, do I tell them, do I say, look, actually that's kind of rude, you know, I wouldn't go around doing it that way. But then sometimes I think, well, it's not always your place to, you know, sometimes you can give the feedback, sometimes it's not your place.
Yeah. And you know, there is an element of, when you're working digitally, it's what they call the attraction marketing. So, you know, it is about, even with network marketing, you've got to find your ideal client. You've got to know who they are and what they want and how they think and where they shop. You know, you need to understand their life so that you can show them the gaps and what they can achieve, and then the how you can do that for them.
So have you ever been a network marketer?
Yes, twice.
What have you sold? I have as well. I'm really curious. I wonder if it's the same thing.
Am I allowed to say it online?
Well, if you want to, if you're comfortable to.
I'm comfortable to share. I don't care. I'm just making sure it's okay for you. So about 6 years ago, around that, I decided I needed to lose some weight, and was snaffled up by a Herbalife. It all started with like, come to a free fit camp opportunity, and it was okay. I've never been one for exercise. My body was built for comfort, not speed, let me tell you. But you know, the shakes and stuff were great, and I actually thought that, oh, do you know what? These are really lovely. And I did see results. And I thought, oh, yeah, you know, they did like the opportunity meeting and stuff. And I thought, and because it's aimed at coaching, you know, coaches, I'm thinking, oh my God, I can help to coach people around the mindset of things. But that wasn't really the case. And I'm not cool with hard sell. Not cool with that at all. So that opportunity we put to bed. And then about 3 years ago, it was a friend that introduced me to New Skin. And again, I fell in love with the products. And I've been to, you know, all the big events where it's all rah rah, and I love that energy because I love doing big events as well. I love being up in front of people, and it was always about, I wanted to be the one on the front of the stage helping people. I didn't, but again, it was the selling and this spammy stuff, and it just didn't sit comfortably with me. So network marketing, I think, is great. I think it can be done better in terms of how people, you know, connect with others and educate. I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen, and that's the stuff that's missing. You know, unless somebody thinks, yeah, you know what, I fancy losing £10 in, you know, 3 days. It's a need, you know, and that, you know, you're going to get that, aren't you? But I think we're all providing a service, but there has to be that element of education and relationship building so that people are attracted to you and what you do and how you can help them, because ultimately that's it. You're not just selling a product, you're there to help. And that's
Absolutely.
my marketing.
Well, I think, you know, that shows the whole theme of this conversation really has been about connection and attraction and working with people and emotional intelligence, self-awareness. So I'm with you there. And I sold Avon. I was a team leader and I loved it. It was my favorite. I absolutely loved doing Avon. In fact, the only reason I stopped doing it was because I was a student and I was working full time, but
Yeah.
I didn't have a car, and I would go on the bus or the metro with these like this trolley full of brochures to go and sign people up. I built a really good team. It was brilliant, and I did all those big events like you say, and went and won prizes, and it was fantastic. So I think sometimes the products you can get are just brilliant because they're often direct to the person. Rather, you cut out a lot of the storage or other issues you would have with rent and, you know, in brick and mortar businesses. So I do love network marketing, but I think sometimes the methods used aren't, as you said, a bit dodgy. But the products, there are some really fab stuff.
Great. You know, the product's great. I mean, speaking of Avon, there's one item on from Avon that I still love, and that's the Skin So Soft. And I know there's a bit of a, you know, conversation to be had about it, because a lot of people say it keeps mosquitoes away, but it doesn't have DEET in. But let me tell you, it's true, because I get ate alive. I mean, ate alive. They love me. As soon as I step off the plane, it's like they attack me in full force. But that Avon Skin So Soft, nothing. Get nothing with it. And I'm like, wow, that's good stuff, and cheap too.
It's a secret ingredient in there called citronella, which is just a fabulous ingredient that keeps mosquitoes away.
I love citronella. I love the smell of citronella and the candles. Yeah, you're not supposed to keep them indoors, but I would love to have them indoors because I do love the smell.
I love it as well. I remember on my honeymoon in Mauritius, as soon as we arrived at the plane, we were exhausted. We've been traveling for ages, and the first thing they gave us was the citronella drink with lemon and honey, and it was so good. And actually didn't get any mosquito bites, so maybe there's something in it.
Oh yes, definitely a secret sauce.
So I'm conscious of the time, Mel. I want to ask, I know you wanted to tell people about your group, which you have. So how can they join? Will you put something in the Facebook comments after this?
Absolutely, yes. So I would love any of you gorgeous women out there who want to be empowered, who want to hear from beautiful, inspiring women, not just myself and the gorgeous Ashleigh, but there are many women who have been contributing into the group around to different topics. So there's always something there for everybody. So I will put the link in. It is M-Power, capital H here, collective, but I'll pop that in. And also to support all of the women who are wanting to go on that entrepreneurial and really kickstart and have a good think about it and start working around their mindset and what their ideal client might look and feel like. I am putting a free 5-day training series together. It's absolutely free. Training will drop in at 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll be live at 5 in the group every night to answer as many questions as physically possible. Obviously, we can't go into masses of detail, but it will give you some really good places to start to think about stuff. And that is happening from Bank Holiday Monday, the 4th of May, and it is the Rookie Fempreneur Academy, and I'll pop the link in there because all you need to do is just answer a couple of the membership questions, and then before training kicks off on the 4th of May, I will make sure everybody is approved, and it's free. And the good news is the following Monday I will be doing a live masterclass, and we will be doing some really good shout outs for people who've been taking part, and there's actually a prize. So for the top 3 who've been really engaged and interactive, you will receive a signed copy of my collaboration book called Monetize Your Message, which came out in on actually International Women's Day, which was the 8th of March this year. So you'll get that. So there's myself and 19 other female entrepreneurs, all with different stories. So there's some real inspiration in that for you to have. And also, as part of that, the top 3 will also get a free 1-hour coaching session with me to kickstart their entrepreneurial journey. So everyone's in it to win it. And then obviously from there, that's when we'll be launching the full 6-week roadmap of really getting to grips. And that will be a lot of one-to-one stuff from me. It's only going to be open for a small amount, maybe 10, 12 women tops, because my ethics are is that, you know, if you're paying for a service, you absolutely need my time and support, and I'm here to do that for you. But we'll give you more details as that comes about. So you heard it here first.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I love the sound of that, and I'm sure it's going to really empower a lot of beginner entrepreneurs, and also some who've been going for a while but have been a bit lost. Sometimes we start something, or we don't know, or we're too shy to ask, or we think, oh well, everyone else is doing it. It can be a bit scary. So that sounds great.
Yeah, and as I say, the free course is there it's specifically for women. Even if you just want to be nosy and see what it's about, come along, just join in for the fun and the ride. You never know, it might just spark something inside you. So please do join us.
It could even nurture your zest.
You could. In fact, we will.
Excellent. So where can people find you online? So you've told us about your 2 groups. Do you hang out anywhere else? I know you're on LinkedIn.
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. I also have a business page on Facebook, which is Melanie Lomax, the Change Maker for Women. I'm on Instagram as Melanie Lomax Coaching, and Twitter, I am Melanie Lomax 7, I think. Yes, I am. So they're all the places you can find me.
Excellent. And I see Anne's commented, which is great. Anne is a stunning visual communicator. She does some really beautiful drawings. In fact, you might have seen them in my Facebook group. She did the one on curiosity. So yes, it's really nice, and it's nice to see that she's watching. So that's great. But another wonderful contributor if you haven't worked with Anne yet. So I'm mindful of the time, and I am very excited to ask my favorite question. What is your number 1 word to nurture your zest?
What is my number 1? Sorry, you went off a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mic. What is your number 1 word to nurture your zest?
My number 1 word has to be creativity.
Oh, I love it. And it's a special word for me as well. I don't think anyone's taken that one yet. So that's amazing.
Oh, and creativity, because I think that's where it stems from. And a word for you?
Oh, my word. No one ever asked me that.
A word for you? I'll give a
So,
word for you.
well, it was Zest. Well, it is Zest. That was why I chose the name I did. But I think a second word, gosh, I don't know. Probably, um, I think
Oh, I got you thinking now.
courage. Courage, which is
Yeah.
another one of my words.
Yes,
But
that's a big
just do it, dream it, do it, action, just go for it. Why not?
just give it a go.
Exactly. So no, that's excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much. It was so lovely to chat to you, Melanie, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and watching Nurture Your Zest tonight. You were just listening to Melanie Lomax, who's a female entrepreneur and just really powerful about, yes, very powerful as well, but very passionate about championing women and championing women in leadership, women in business, women in entrepreneurship. And she is running a free challenge. So she's going to leave some comments about how you can get involved in that, but look out for that because it is something free that you can participate in. And I just want to say thanks again for joining us and have a wonderful night. And we'll see you next Tuesday or Thursday at 7 p.m. These are now running every week, twice a week. And I can't wait to bring some brilliant creatives and curious entrepreneurs to you soon. See you soon. Thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to Nurture Your Zest. You can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn at Nurture Your Zest. If you've liked today, please subscribe. You can also leave us a review if you're feeling extra kind. Today's podcast has been made available through the kind sponsorship of TL Multimedia and That Branding Company. We look forward to catching up with you again soon as you learn to nurture your zest.